Okay, let's do that. And okay, go.
Hi, this is Jeremy Barnhart with ApexFunRun.com, and you're listening to Jeff Smith with Vroom Vroom Veer.
Thanks, man. That was awesome. First try, too. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to go away. I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Siphiwe Baleka, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
It is going fantastic, Jeff. Thanks for having me, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're already having a blast, and we've only talked for 2 minutes or 8 minutes or something like that.
And we veered 2 or 3 times already, too.
Yes, yeah, in 8 minutes. And unfortunately, I didn't record that. I should have recorded all of that because that was a blast. Note to self, record BS before show starts. Okay. So you are Siphiwe Baleka, and I'm going to spell your name now because your name is your website, right? So yes. You are at www.siphiwebaleka.com. Did I get it right?
You got it right.
I got it right. Well, I was reading it very slowly. So let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on now, because I know you just wrote a book and you've got a job and you've got this fitness trucking thing going on. So just give us your elevator pitch before we get into the nuts and bolts of your life and vrooming and veering and stuff.
Yeah, I got a book and a job, and I'm an athlete, and I'm a father. And,
way to go.
Yeah. So just a lot of amazing things are going on right now. The book is called 4 Minute Fit.
Right.
And the subtitle is The Metabolism Accelerator for the Time Crunch, Desk Bound, and Stressed Out.
Oh, good.
And so I'm really excited about that. That book is taking what I've learned working with truck drivers over the last 4 years and helping them lose weight and really hacking metabolism and figuring out how to help people boost their metabolism so that they can lose the weight and get healthy.
I love it.
So that's going on.
Yeah.
My company, Fitness Trucking, is growing and expanding, and we're getting more clients, and we're helping more and more people, particularly in the transportation industry, which is the least healthy industry, the least healthy sector of the economy. It's long-haul truck drivers are the unhealthiest occupation in America.
They've got the perfect storm of not healthy habits embedded in their job, essentially.
Yes. So they need the most help. So I feel good about serving that cause.
Well, I get it. It's a great place to start because it sort of like destroys all excuses for everybody else, I think.
that's the idea for the book, right?
Yeah.
If it'll work for truck drivers, it'll work for
you. Exactly. Yes. So true.
But I do have other things going on in my life too. This weekend I competed at the Arena Pro Swim Series.
All right. Which so you're still competing in your swim. That's cool.
Yeah. Here I am in this meet swimming with. First of all, I was the oldest competitor by 10 years.
Wow.
And I'm swimming against the world's best swimmers. I mean, Olympic champions and world record holders, and some of the best high school and college swimmers in the world were all at this meet.
Just to be in the same pool, right?
I know. I was like I felt like a little kid because I'm looking at these 15, 16, 17-year-olds and I see swim on TV and I'm like, oh, I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's awesome.
Meanwhile, I've probably swum 3 times as many races as they have in their lifetime, right?
Right, right.
So that was a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm a father. I have a daughter that's graduating college this year. She's 22. And then I have boys that are 5 and 2. And so there's just a lot going on.
You've got one graduating college and then you've got a 5 and a 2.
Yeah.
Good for you. Way to go.
I went vroom and vroom, and then I veered.
I guess so. Wow. I think there's more than one veer in your life. You've got several. A lot.
I've got a couple.
You've got a lot of rooming and a lot of veering. So let's go back in time now and talk about how you got here. Let's talk about the journey that was your life, and how you got to where you are now. So I know you were obviously athletic as a kid. Say like in when did you start swimming? What age?
Yeah, I was. Well, first and foremost, so I was born and raised in Oswego, Illinois, which back then,
that sounds very
about 45
Illinois.
minutes. It is. It's it still has the Native American name.
Right. Yeah. I grew up in Menominee, Michigan, so I get it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something
Oswego,
Native American.
Menominee.
Yeah. Right. It's got to sound Native American.
They might have been friends. I don't know. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe they fought. We don't know.
So yeah, I grew up there. And what's interesting, we were the first Black family to move out there. So, and at that time, it's pretty country. It's 45 minutes southwest of Chicago. But at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of development. It was a lot of cornfields. But my father moved out there after having graduated from Fisk University, which was a historically Black college university, had a degree in math. And he got a really good job that enabled him to move to a place that had a good school system. That was sort of his vision. It's what he wanted to do for his children, for me. And I have an older sister. So we moved out there. We were the first Black family to move out there. And yeah, that's what I did, played sports. It was at a time where, in the summertime, you could leave the house 8 o'clock in the morning. Parents are like, be back before dark. I'd be gone the whole day, riding bikes, playing baseball on the field, playing football, swimming, playing tennis, playing basketball, making obstacle course. This is long before Ninja Warrior. Okay. We would make our own obstacle courses.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that sounds like a blast. Yeah.
Wintertime, we, snowdrift that were 3, 4, 5, 6 feet tall. So we're jumping off the roof into the snowdrifts.
Right. You're playing fun. King of the Mountain, right?
All of that.
Yeah. Did you make those like what do they call them? Where you dig into the snowdrift and then make like an igloo inside of them and make a cave system?
Oh yeah, we did all. Yeah. Epic snow fights.
Right.
Yes.
The face washing. Yay.
That was when you were with the older
the bigger kids, right? When they're picking on you and sticking like snowballs down your pants. Yay, childhood.
So you know about this.
I do.
You know about this.
I do.
Yeah. Well, Michigan, you know about this.
Right.
Even pond, you might know about this too. Pond hockey. There were a lot of ponds out there.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah,
even did that.
We would like it. I was always deathly afraid of any sort of frozen body of water just because I was like, I don't trust it. But then once you saw enough kids not dying, then it was just fun. It was like, is the ice going to break? You never wanted to be the first kid jumping around on ice, right?
Well, Jeff, just like you were deathly afraid of frozen ice,
I
was frozen water.
Yeah.
I was deathly afraid of the water.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. When I was 4, my father took the whole family. We went to South Carolina for a vacation. We went to the Atlantic Ocean, went to the beach.
Nice.
And I wouldn't go anywhere near the water. Okay. Deathly afraid. And my father was like, when we get back, you're taking swim lessons. And I remember you asked me how I got started swimming. I remember very vividly being in the back of the car and him driving me to swim lessons, because it was kind of a long drive, and dreading it. And the place where they taught you how to swim, if you didn't get in the water when they asked you, when they told you to, okay,
right,
they would march you to the deep end and push you off the diving board.
Sure.
And that's how I learned. That's how I first started learning how to swim.
They threw you in?
Yeah, they put me to the end of the diving board in the deep end and pushed me off because I wouldn't get in the water in the shallow end when they said, "Hey, it's time to get in the water." I ran around the deck and they chased me and they finally got me and pushed
That's
me
very
off the
similar
diving
to
board.
how I got over my fear of water. One of my uncles just threw me in the deep end. You know, that
And apparently you didn't sink.
I didn't die.
You didn't die. Which is
flailed.
key.
I flailed. I probably sunk a little bit, and then I did whatever I had to do and moved through the water like a crazy person, and then was like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." Fear solved, you know. I realized at that point that I was actually buoyant. You know, I think that's the big aha moment. You know, it's like, oh, look at that! It kind of pop out of the water all by my.
Well, you had one on me, Jeff, because I don't think I was very buoyant at all.
Really?
But no. But
So you
somewhere
freaked
along
out
the line,
that first time, huh?
Yeah, I was freaking out. Yeah.
I freaked out, but I got over it pretty quick.
The water was cold. I was wet. I was scared. Nothing.
Right. Nothing was
Nothing
okay.
fun about
Nothing was okay.
Not. But somewhere along the line, I would go to the little park stick pool in the summer and spend all day there. Everybody's swimming and doing things. And the lifeguard had asked me, it's like, "Oh, I bet you can't swim across the pool." And I was like, "Man, I can swim across the pool. Watch this." And he's like, "I bet you can't do it on your back." And I was like, "I can do that too." And he's like, "Hey, you should come out for the swim team."
Oh, wow.
And so I did. And I was 7 and I went out for the little park district swim team. By the time I was 10, I was a state champion swimmer.
Holy cow.
Still playing all these other sports. By the time I was 14, I was nationally ranked and traveling. And by the time got to high school, I was a top level high school swimmer and, top recruit. And still play, I still played other sports though. I played tennis and I played football. It's funny. I spent 1 year playing basketball. Right. And I was, everybody thought I could play basketball.
Right. No stereotype there. I get it. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, wasn't very good at basketball, but I could swim. So, so I did my 1 season of basketball. I wasn't very good. I'm like, nah, I'm not getting enough attention. I'm not the star. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Right.
So,
that's great. Yeah. That's why we do things when we're kids. Yes.
I got to tell you, though, I did have this one moment. You'll appreciate this. Your listeners will appreciate this, too. Right. The pivotal moment for me was I was 12 years old, and I was sort of the best swimmer on the team that I was on. And my father took me to see my uncle, Hayes Jones, who had won a gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics in the 110-meter high hurdles. Went to his house, biggest house I'd ever seen, big driveway. Okay. And we went into this room. It was his study, and he opened this cabinet door, and then he took out this box, and he took the top off the box, and he pulled out this medal, and he stuck the medal in my hand, and my hand like dropped to the floor because it's like real gold, and it was heavy. I didn't expect it to be that heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said to me, he said, "Look, if you want one of these, you've got to make a commitment. You've got to decide now. You're like 12 years old. The average age of an Olympic swimmer, male swimmer, 21, 22, 23. So we're talking a 10, 12-year commitment. You got to pick a sport and stick with it." And I knew back then that I wasn't ever going to be big enough to play college football or professional football or basketball. And I was already a champion swimmer. So I kind of picked swimming by default because
it made sense.
Because I was good at it. It made sense. And that's when I got serious and I started thinking, wow, I could make the Olympics. And that became my focus. That was my goal, was to become the first African-American on the U.S. Olympic swimming team. And I was already starting to get attention at that age too. So,
and this was when you were like 14-ish?
I'm 12.
12. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay. So how did that go?
It was going great.
Yeah.
Coming out of high school, I was recruited by all these universities. Ended up going to Yale University. which nobody could understand because it was the worst swim team in the Ivy League. They were bottom of the barrel. And I had opportunities to go to pretty much any school I wanted to. And, especially a swimming powerhouse or one that had a good swim program and wouldn't have to pay for it. So Ivy League schools, they don't give athletic scholarships. But my father, my father raised me. So by the time I was 10, it was just me and my dad.
Okay.
And you always hear the story about single moms. You don't always hear the story about single dads. So I always like to talk about my dad.
Sure.
Because he raised me. It was just me and him. But he told me, he's like, look, wherever you want to go to school, it's your choice, right? He gave me his word. So he was probably a little miffed when I turned down full ride scholarships to go to the most expensive school in the country and make it pay for it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, maybe. In retrospect, you can probably see that.
Yeah, if my son does that, I'm not as sure I'm going to be as good as my dad.
Okay. Got it.
I might counsel him otherwise.
There you go.
So I went to Yale to swim. I mean, it was great. Other swimmers came along, and by the time I was a senior there, we had gone from last place to first place. We ended up winning an Ivy League championship in 4 years' time. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. That's got to feel like a huge win, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was overwhelming. Yale has their swimming program. Actually, their coach, Robert Kipeth, has the record of any collegiate coach in any sport for the greatest winning percentage. 528 wins and only 12 losses.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
So,
he must be doing something right.
Yeah. So it was, for me, it was great to be part of that legacy, to say, hey, we return the program to its greatness, if only for just that one season. But on a personal level, year 1992, that was my opportunity to go for my Olympic dream.
Right.
Olympic trials in 1992. And I was at US Open, which is a big swimming meet. It was my last opportunity to qualify for Olympic trials, and I didn't make it. I missed the qualifying time by 0.8 of a second. And just like that, the 12-year goal dream was over, was done.
Ouch. That's got a wait a minute. I'm gonna check my notes. How did that make you feel? Like, I don't know, but like, try to get into that moment, because a lot of folks go through their lives not striving for greatness. I think there's different sorts of people. There's sorts of people that have whatever that is in people that makes them sort of like even think about trying to do something like that, right? Even though the odds are totally stacked against them, they just don't believe that for whatever reason, and they just go for it, and then you get to that thing, and it's just this totally arbitrary moment that, like you said, 0.8 seconds makes this huge effect in your life. I mean, just walk us through what you felt like in that moment. I mean, was it just total devastation?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the scoreboard and I saw the time, and it wasn't even my fastest swim either. When I knew it was over, I immediately knew I didn't have the heart to try to train another 4 years. I knew it was over, and it was a very, very heavy moment. I don't remember ever crying after a race or a competition except for that moment. I left the competition pool and I went to the warm down pool, and I was crying, and it was the moment where I was like, man, I'm not good enough.
Right. Yeah.
For 12 years, I kind of, even though I was a long shot to qualify for the U.S. Olympic swimming team, total long shot. I mean, just getting the Olympic trials would have been great. Even though I was a total long shot, I took it for granted that I was going to do it, just like you said.
Right. Well, you almost have to do that. You have to do that, because if you don't convince yourself it's possible, your subconscious is going to be saying, well, what are you doing? You have to make some part of you, or at least probably all of you, your whole being has to believe that beyond all consideration, something's going to come around and make it okay for you to do this and win. Otherwise, if you don't convince yourself of that as an athlete, you're not going to have the motivation to do it, right?
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself.
You won't have what it takes to get through the grueling part.
Right.
And then my father told me, he's like, if you want to be a champion, you got to surround yourself with champions and do what they do. So I was on this team where I just took it for granted. The older kids, they were all national champions. They were all Division I scholarship winners. They were all U.S. Olympic trials qualifiers. We even had, Dave Sims made the 1980 Olympic swimming team. So I was around people that were manifesting the very thing. And so I'm like, well, I'm doing the same thing they're doing. So when I get that age, I'm going to do it too. Right. Just really kind of took it for granted. So that moment I realized, wow, I'm not as good as I think I am. Yeah. And so I didn't want to swim anymore after that.
You really internalized it then. You kind of got maybe a little depressed it's natural to get a little depressed, but I mean, just how bad was it?
By this point I already had some identity issues too. I mean,
sure.
Growing up a black kid in a white community and not really knowing who I am and always feeling different and weird. The sports, and particularly swimming, gave me, my foundation to stand on. As long as I was a great athlete, everybody thinks you're okay. You get sort of recognition. Your self-esteem is good. You get a little
halo kind of effect from others. It's like, well, we want that guy around because he's going to help out the swim team or whatever team, But mostly,
very welcoming.
Right, sure.
So when this happened, it was this confluence of, I don't know who I am in the world, ethnically, racially, in terms of who, and my ancestors. Something's off. My family isn't normal. It's just me and my dad. That's weird. Everybody else has a mom. Right. Go to the meets, and then I find out I'm not as good an athlete as I thought I was. So it hit pretty hard. I didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to swim. I didn't want to talk to anyone. It hit hard enough that I ended up in the hospital.
Wow.
I took some pills and roommates found me passed out, and I ended up in the psych ward at the Yale New Haven Hospital for a time. And meanwhile, I'm majoring in existential philosophy.
That's kind of a bummer. Yeah. No, I get it. No, I went through depression and suicide attempts too. So we went through it. I went through it too. So, and it's good that you and I talk about this publicly because we both survived it, right? And now when we look back at it and see with a different perspective, those things the volume is way lower. Right. But when you're in it, you just think, especially when what you just said, you were studying that existential philosophy, it can definitely, depression is one of these things where sometimes you can't get out of it by yourself. You need help. And you got help.
I needed help. I learned a lot about mental health laws in the United States. And, when I was in the hospital, true story, they ask you, do you think you could hurt yourself or you're harm to yourself or others? And I'd be like, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. I mean, the problem of suicide in existential philosophy is, nobody's like really written about it authentically because nobody's successfully done it and then come back to tell about it. So
yes,
don't know.
You're right. That's true. Well said.
I'm not answering their questions properly.
Right.
For them to, because I was telling the truth. I was like, I don't know. As a philosopher, I'm trying to explore this, and I'm at a point in my life where I'm lost. I don't know what there is next. So it took a little work for my coach and my dad to get me out of the hospital.
Really?
Because I wasn't.
So they had to coach you how to answer the questions correctly, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't answering the questions.
Yeah. Well, I was in the Air Force 20 years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes, you have to be coached in very like slow words with lots of, knowing glances in order to say the right thing to get the answer right. It's like they want you to say the right thing, It's like, I'm going to ask it again. And this time, think about what your answer is. You've been through this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow along.
Right, follow along. I'm going to say this, and then you're going to say, I can't tell you what to say, but you're going to say, thank you. You got the answer right.
They would actually tell me to think less about my answers.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because I was thinking too deeply. But what came out of this, I got out of the hospital, and what came out of this was this brilliant moment that you talk about. I mean,
okay.
Even your concept of veering.
Vrooming
right?
and veering, yes.
Yes.
It's an aha moment, I hope.
I had this aha moment where I realized I had this blank canvas. It was the first time I didn't have to do anything. I didn't wake up with a plan for that hour, that day, that week, that month, that season. I was reading Soren Kierkegaard, and he's talking about taking a leap of faith. And I recognized I had this moment, and I might not ever have, at the time I was thinking, I might not ever have a moment like this again. And I, what do I want to do? What do I really want to do? I didn't want to be at school, and I didn't want to swim. I talked to my coach about what was going on, and he was like, look, I understand you don't want to swim anymore. Your heart's not in it, but you'll regret one thing. And this is going into my senior year. He's like, we still haven't won the Ivy League championship yet. And that was a goal you had. We can't do it without you. And if you leave now, I think you're going to regret that. I said, I'm going to make you a deal, right? You don't have to come to every practice anymore. You're still going to swim fast. Right. You just come to a sufficient amount of practices. And that was kind of vague. Right.
Okay. Right. Not everyone.
Finish your last.
Right. But some.
Yeah. Finish your last year. Right. And it's not going to be the same anymore. It's different. I understand where you're at. So I did. I swam that last season. I didn't go to morning workouts anymore. I just kind of showed up in the afternoon, just kind of put my time in, still swam fast. Came down to the last meet of the year. It was a Harvard, Yale, Princeton tri-meet. Came down to the last race, came down to the last relay. I'm leading off the relay. I give them a lead. We win. I knew I didn't want to swim anymore. I knew I didn't want to be at Yale anymore because I started having academic problems, not because I wasn't doing the work, but I was thinking outside the box and really challenging my professors. And some of them didn't appreciate that.
No, they don't like that. No. I went through the same thing when I was in the Air Force, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You're questioning existence, right? And they want to talk about exactly. You're questioning, life, the universe, and everything, and they're talking about you graduating or passing a class, right? So you've got a perspective issue. I went through the same thing in the Air Force.
Or sticking to some arbitrary format for writing this paper.
Right.
And I'm trying to do performance art.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So 3 days after we won that meet, I left school. I literally up and walked away. Had 2 months before graduating. I had a 3.3 grade point average out of a 4.0. So, I was 3.6 in my major. So I wasn't having academic trouble. I was still doing well, but I didn't want to be there. So I literally 3 days after that, I up and walked away. I showed up on my father's doorstep. I said, Dad, I love you. Thank you. I'm tired of reading about the Jesus and Buddha and all these spiritual luminaries and philosophers and stuff. I want to live like them. I'm going to go travel the world. I don't know when I'm coming home, if ever. Love you. Thanks. Bye. I'm outie.
Wow. That's a moment.
For him, because I made him pay all that money.
Right. And you didn't even graduate. So he's kind of wanting to kill you a little.
Well,
or at least beat you up.
he never spoke a harsh word to me in his life.
Oh, wow.
And after I told him that, I literally turned around and left and walked away. So I wasn't around to see what he went through. Now I've heard it through word of mouth. He didn't take it so well.
Yeah. You think?
And Jeff, I disappeared. I literally disappeared. You couldn't find me. I went off the grid. You couldn't find me. I was, I hitchhiked across the United States, and then I went to Europe, and I'm traveling around Europe, and I'm traveling around other countries, and I made my way to the Caribbean and South America and Africa and all these. And I would only periodically check in. It might be 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you just didn't know. It's not like that anymore. And
right.
He's I think I've made him proud at this point with what I've done since that time.
Sure.
But it was tough for him. But for me, it was the best thing because I had spent 12 years with every part of my life planned to achieve this one thing.
Right.
And now I was waking up every day. I didn't have to do a thing. There was nowhere I had to be. It was the exact opposite. And that actually brought balance to my life.
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, basically you were spinning yourself up so tight that I mean, do you ever think about the not making the Olympic what was it? The Olympic trial
Olympic
team?
trials.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
No.
I mean as a positive thing. Do you see it?
Oh, do I think
Yeah. It's like a blessing in disguise almost. So kind of like setting you free from a prison of your own construction almost.
I mean, it's an analysis that's not foreign to me. Other people, right?
Other people ask you this question, right? But you didn't feel that way.
It.
Gotcha. Understood. Well, that's why I asked it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 0.8 of a second in swimming. I mean, 0.8 of a second is not a lot of time.
Right.
But it is a lot of time.
Yeah. In a swim meet, it's pretty huge, right?
Especially for the race I'm swimming 100 meters.
Right.
But yes, that definitely did set my trajectory
it's a life changer.
Not even just a different direction, like a different dimension.
Right. You became a different person than you would have been on the other side of that. Right. Good word. That's a quantum veer. Right.
Yes. I like that.
Because did you spend time thinking about how your life would have been different if you would have been on the other side of that?
Not once.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's useless. Right. Yeah.
Well, what happened after that was so amazing. I mean, I was so present and so excited. First thing I did is I went surfing, and then I'm traveling to foreign countries and I'm meeting, amazing people of all walks of life. And then I'm volunteering and serving causes that I believe in so there wasn't anything to miss.
No, I get it. But you became kind of like a vagabond almost.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes.
Did you have the Ralph Potts book? Have you ever heard of that book? There's a book called Vagabonding. I want to buy it. Apparently, that's what you did, and you didn't even know there was a book. That's awesome.
No, but watch this. I'm going to give you something that I've never revealed publicly.
Okay. All right. So awesome.
This is the first time. So at one point, I did go back to Yale to graduate, mostly to honor my father.
Okay.
And
well, that's
when
good.
When I went back in the philosophy department, in order to graduate, you have to do a senior final thesis or final project. And at the time, desktop publishing was just kind of becoming big. And I didn't want to write just a 20-page paper. I didn't want to, just put black text on a white paper. I'm way more dynamic at this point.
Okay.
So I decided I'm going to use desktop publishing, and I'm going to combine images and artwork and philosophical themes and poetry onto a page that's going to explain what I learned and sort of what I developed. And the title of my senior thesis was called Vagabondage.
I love it. Now, wait a minute. There's vagabondage.
Yeah.
I want to know more. Why vagabondage?
I wasn't an English lit major, so I'm not sure about all the grammatical stuff.
Okay, that's fine.
It was it could have been vagabonding.
Okay.
I guess I was trying to make it into an action or a way of life.
Right.
Right. And the idea was, that there was some value in being free like that, not knowing there was a beauty in it. There was an artistic or aesthetic value to it. There was a soul affirming thing to it. So to take this thing, vagabond, it sounds like garbage, it sounds like trash, and repurpose it was what I was striving to do, because I did find it very valuable. I'm in Europe and I don't have any money, but there's a big squatters movement.
Right.
And
okay.
I get to know them. And so I'm with these young people who are living in these abandoned buildings and fixing them up and doing their own electricity and plumbing. And because they're not paying rent, they don't have to work full time. So
I
some
heard
of
that
them
was
are going
pretty
to school
big in like places like Amsterdam.
Yes. Well, that was the first place I ended up, and that's where it all started.
Amsterdam is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Amsterdam.
Yes.
Yeah. Good for you. That's cool. So you learned some homelessness skills, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Practical skills, like how to take care of myself and like survive day to day, but also spiritual and like mental skills of how to go through life differently.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Being open to the fear.
Right. It's almost like you had this whole conversation, right, is like what you're talking about a lot of different themes. So did you kind of almost realize like you kind of didn't even know you felt trapped by that whole, being overscheduled and working towards that goal?
No, I didn't.
At the time, you didn't feel trapped. Okay.
Yeah, at the time I didn't feel trapped. And even after I'm experiencing this other way of living, I didn't feel trapped because I volunteered for it and I enjoyed it.
Right. I get it.
By the same token, if I had fell into homelessness and vagabondage, not of my own will, I would have felt trapped by that.
Right.
But I didn't.
Because you were volunteering, you were voluntarily going out there and accepting this level of, what most people would say would be this sort of like dangerous exposure to the world.
Yeah.
But you're doing it on purpose, Yeah. Yeah.
Hardship and insecurity.
Right.
But I didn't, it was a perspective change. I didn't see it as hardship. The fact that I didn't have to go to work and have money to pay for rent, and the fact that I didn't have to go to work to have money to eat because I'm scavenging food, right?
Yeah.
Right. That wasn't a hardship for me. It was liberating. But I definitely understand if you're not going into that voluntarily and wanting that experience,
right.
Then it's horrible.
Well, I think purposeful vagabonding for whatever reason is amazing. Now, and that is different than folks that try to go out and say like, I want to pretend I'm homeless for 30 days. That's kind of stupid. Because the thing in the back of your mind is I'm pretending to be homeless, right?
Or I'm coming out of it 30 days from now, so let me just last.
Yeah.
30 days.
When you're actually
really
homeless, right, you don't have that option. So it's real. Nobody would say, "Oh, I'm just playing at being homeless on purpose." It's a completely different thing. Yeah. I mean, those folks are now we should back up because I've lived in Los Angeles now since 2003, and there's definitely a difference between a panhandler who's a pro and an actual homeless person. And I can now tell the difference. Right. I've actually seen panhandlers driving really nice trucks and wearing Oakley sunglasses. And I'm like, aha. Aha. That's a panhandler. They're very sneaky, It's like you never see them showing up or leaving, right? But it just so happened that I saw this one dude enough, to know him, know his face. And I'm driving home from work, and there he is. He's got a really nice, Toyota Tundra or whatever. He's wearing Oakleys. I'm like, oh, I gave you money. Never again. Never again. Anyway, we digress. So
we veered.
Yes, we veered. Okay, so how long do you end up being on the road then?
So I kind of lived this way, not kind of. I mean, I was fully immersed in this way.
You went back for a while. You finished college, right? But
yeah,
it wasn't over yet, right?
And then I went right back into vagabondage and traveling and living this other way of life that I did for about 15 years. Okay. I would basically get passed off from one community to the next. Find something that I wanted to do that there was a need, so maybe it was organic farming, or maybe it was, building solar panels in Ethiopia, or maybe it was, making bamboo furniture in Trinidad, wherever I ended up, I'd kind of find a community that needed help. I had some serious skill sets. I could conceptualize other people's ideas. I could write grants. I can structure nonprofit organizations. I can attract attention. I was doing all these things for people that needed help serving these causes for as long as the project lasts, and then I would move on.
Okay.
And I enjoyed doing that. Did that for about 15 years. But they don't call it not for profit for no reason. Okay.
Right.
As hard as I was working, I didn't have any money, and now I'm older. And I was starting to get burned out, and I came back to the United States and realized I had done so many amazing things, but the one thing I hadn't done was really make any real money. And I needed to do that, and I was burned out, so I needed a career change. At that point, I didn't know what to do because I didn't have a real traditional
resume. Yeah, your resume would not look impressive. Right.
And when the second book comes out, Jeff, it covers the missing 15 years of my life.
I can't wait.
There might be some people don't want to hire me.
Oh, come on. You're already good, I think. I think you've corrected the gap. Sometimes, have you ever heard of a podcast? I don't know how into podcasts you are, right? But there's this guy named Dan Carlin, and he does this really cool podcast called Hardcore History. And he came out of radio, right? And he was talking to Tim Ferriss, and he's like, whatever anybody else says is bad about you, make that your best feature.
Yes.
So take that gap in your 15-year gap and highlight it, and don't let anybody tell you that was a bad idea. That's what Dan would say, is like, no, just reframe it and say, and make it a big list of projects, humanitarian stuff that you did that looks amazing that nobody else did. Sure, you didn't have a job. Who cares? If you get it to the right employer, they'll be impressed, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
And there were, it was so rewarding and fulfilling.
Right.
But I mean, anything you do for a certain amount of time, you give your blood, sweat, and tears, you may need to step away from it. And I definitely did. And a friend of mine was driving a truck, and he's like, you should drive a truck. It suits your nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah. Right.
You don't have a family yet. So the money you make, you can put away. You can make really good money. Got plenty of time to think. This is a good fit for you. And I was like, I can't think of anything else to do right now. So that's how I got into truck driving, and how I ended up in Springfield, Missouri at Prime Inc. And learning how to drive, getting my CDL, and becoming a long haul truck driver. And that was sort of the next.
That was the next chapter, the new identity. Yes. Right. So at what point, now you said, I read in the book, I want to just take a moment's pause, because there's a story that I love that goes with how you got the name Siphiwe Baleka. So let's just take a minor digression and talk about that, because it's great.
Okay.
I love it. Yeah, if you don't mind.
So, Jeff, imagine you woke up in the morning as a little kid, and all your life you look in the mirror, you look in there, and your name is Chilau Gomez Mustafa.
Okay. Say that again. It was what?
Chinlau Gomez Mustafa.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm trying
and
it.
You're like,
I'm visualizing
man,
it.
I'm not Asian.
Yeah.
I'm not Vietnamese.
Right.
I'm not Middle Eastern. So you look in the mirror, you see one thing, but this sound that is constantly directed at you doesn't fit.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
That was my experience growing up. I had this, Italian first name or Spanish first name, a Hebrew middle name, and an English surname. But I'm looking in the mirror and I see I'm a black kid. I'm a black boy. I'm African or I'm African American. But
right.
I know I'm not English.
Right.
And I know my ancestors are not the Tudors.
Right. Right. Okay. It's starting to make sense now.
A name is kind of important because sound is energy.
Okay.
And your name is a vibration that is directed at you your entire life. It's energy invested at you. So for me, and this is true for most African Americans, we were ripped from our ancestral homeland. And one of the first things they did to strip us of all that we were connected to was to forbid us to speak our language and forbid us to use our names.
Right.
Right. So I remember as a kid when Roots came on TV.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Man. It's
yes.
Kunta Kinte and Toby. Right.
And that was the thing that broke Kunta Kinte's spirit was the moment he had to what? Relinquish his ancestral name.
That's right.
And take the name of his, slave holding conquerors.
Yes. Yikes.
So by the time I got a little bit of historical consciousness in me in college, and I started, I'm studying existential philosophy and the meaning of life, and I'm realizing I was just having problems with who I was. I was a black kid raised in a white neighborhood. I didn't fit in anywhere, right? So with the white kids, it was like, okay, he's different, but you're not really black because you're kind of like us. With the black kids, it was like, okay, you fit in, but you're not really with us because, you're kind of white. So I had these like, yeah,
okay,
like a white,
all right,
right,
wow, man without a people,
in a very, very real and alienating sense.
I get it, yeah.
And I started to struggle with it more and more. So by the time I'm traveling, at one point, I go to South Africa, and on my father's side of the family, we have some family historians that always said that we were descendant from tribes in South Africa. So when I went to South Africa and I got a chance to spend some time with some elders, and they told me, they said, whenever a son of the soil returns, he gets a new name. And the idea behind that is if you leave the tribe or the village and you go travel far away, and you've been far away from home, and maybe you spent a long time away from home, that experience should have changed you. And if you return as a changed person, you should have a new name reflecting that. And they said, you haven't been to the soil in how many generations? 6, 7, 8 generations.
Right.
And so they gave me this name, Siphiwe Baleka. Siphiwe means gift of the creator. And Baleka means he who escaped, but it also means fast.
Aha.
And
it fits both ways. Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I love both. Yeah.
I had the aha moment where I was like, I actually now know my name, like my real name.
Right.
It fit my identity. So when I came back to America, I wanted to honor my ancestors, right? And so I had my name legally changed.
That's amazing. Wow. I love it. It's almost, and it goes to that. Have you ever read? Of course you have, but what do they call it? The hero's journey. When the hero goes away. So your hero journey crossed generations. But part of that is always, you get renamed. The hero usually gets a new name. So when I read that in your book, I was like, oh, this makes sense. It's almost like, you totally, in every way possible, rewrote your identity, which is pretty powerful stuff. I mean, that's one of the most powerful things you can even hope to think about doing in this life, I think.
And Jeff, it wasn't a contrived thing.
No, I know.
It was an organic, natural thing. It was born of a lot of real struggling with, the questions that everybody has, and especially young people, with things changing so fast today and access to information, and young people wanting to know where they fit in. I didn't set out and say, I'm going to reinvent myself.
No, I know. I get it. It just happened.
I made choices that led to that.
Right. That's typically how it goes, though.
Yeah.
I mean, from a guy
getting the name from the elders was kind of like the seal on that chapter, and then going into the next one.
No, for reals. I get it. It's like almost like you're getting towards the end of that. You're probably already thinking you're moving away. You're like, I've been doing this for a while. I should be, making money, having kids. You're ready to start transitioning out. And then this renaming idea comes up, and it's like, oh, yeah. I mean, were you open to the idea like immediately when?
Yeah. Oh yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually stepped off the plane, and I was there because I had organized a conference in South Africa. I had stepped off the plane, and there was about 30 or 40 people that were there waiting for me with flags, and the elders approached me, and they literally gave me the name the moment I set foot in South Africa.
Wow.
And they said, since you're here, right, the people need to know you. And when they say people, they don't just mean the people that you see physically.
No, they're talking about all the people. Yes. Yeah.
And they need to call you in their tongue.
Right. That's great.
One of the most amazing moments of my life.
Yeah, no, I get it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing the story. Okay, so now we can get back to the timeline. So where we were at the point where you had just started becoming a trucker. So how long did you actually, or are you still driving a truck as your job?
So no, I don't drive anymore. I drove for 4 years.
All right.
I came to Prime, and at Prime they have a student driver program. So if I'd never been in a truck, didn't know anything about truck driving, didn't know anything about Prime, didn't know anything about the industry. I just kind of came here out of default, like a lot of drivers, kind of like, I don't have too many other options open to me. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Day I came to Prime, I weighed 140 pounds. 2 months later, I'd been on the road 2 months. I was now 155 pounds. Okay. I gained
wow. That was quick.
15 pounds. Yeah, 10.7% of my body weight in 2 months.
Yeesh.
That's extreme.
That's a lot. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a lot to people that, are listening and they go, what's 15 pounds? 15 pounds is nothing to like somebody like me who's big and like loses a lot of weight and gains a lot of weight, but you're little. That's a lot of weight percentage wise.
Well, yeah, if you gain 10% of your body weight in 2 months' time, that's extreme.
Something's going wrong in a bad way.
So by the end of the year, I'm looking at, I could be 40, 50, 60 pounds heavier in a year, and I got scared.
It's almost like you didn't know that you were signing up to be on that Super Size Me movie.
No.
Right. And you were getting supersized. Yikes. Okay. All right.
Very quickly. Didn't realize it. And you'd think that everybody would realize this coming into the industry, but they don't. And when you come into the industry, they don't tell you within the first 3 to 6 months, due to the accumulated sleep deprivation, your serum leptin and serum ghrelin levels are going to change, and you're not going to be able to regulate metabolism properly. You're probably going to end up skipping meals and then overeating when you do eat, which is going to lead to obesity. You're going to be at risk for metabolic syndrome, which is 60 medical disorders and 12 cancers.
Wow.
They don't explain that to you coming in, and they definitely don't teach you the science behind it or prepare you to deal with it. I mean, the environment in truck driving is so unique. You're living in a box. You don't have access to a kitchen. You have food storage issues. You're not getting to the local organic farmers market or
Trader Joe's
specialty
or
store.
Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Right.
you're not getting to the gym because they're not set up for truck parking, and you don't want to go off the main interstates and highways with your, tractor and 53-foot trailer anyways.
Right.
So there are all these severe limitations, and the schedule is always changing, which is disrupting your circadian rhythms. All of these combined, right? You might as well be an astronaut living in outer space. That's how unique the environment is.
Wow.
Now imagine if NASA sent you into outer space without a spacesuit.
Pretty much. That's a good analogy. It would be killing.
That'd be bad for NASA. It'd be bad for the astronaut.
It would just be bad for everybody.
But that's what the industry is doing. There are men and women that they're putting them out in this unique environment with no protection, no training, nothing. And then they become a victim. All these things change within the first year. It's not like a red flag jumps up and says, hey, it's your serum ghrelin, your serum leptin. I've changed. You can't regulate hunger properly. It's not like you understand the changes. What happens is you just look in the mirror one day and you're like, my God, what happened?
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I had that moment 2 months
just
in.
about dead. Yeah. Good.
I didn't wait 2 years or 5 years into it. It was 2 months. And I was like, I got to do something. And I started, trying all these things and trying all this equipment and you name it. And I'd be on the outside of my truck exercising, talking to drivers, and the light bulb went off again. And I realized there's a nutrition and fitness program for everyone in America, except one that was specifically designed for the long haul truck driver, their unique environment and their unique schedule. Right. And that was the moment I decided I'm going to design such a system.
Yeah. So what sort of diet do you focus on? Because we didn't talk about on the show, we didn't talk about the exercise, because I love the exercise part, but let's just, do the 7 bullet points of what you're recommending to eat.
Well, what to eat. So I'll break it down this
or
way.
How to eat. Yeah, there you go.
All right. If we're going to talk about the nutrition part of 4 Minute Fit, it comes down to this. One, you have to eat every 3 hours, because when you eat, you give your metabolism work to do. And as long as you are awake and working, you want your metabolism to be working or burning fat for you.
Okay.
So the first thing is you got to eat. You got to eat when you start your day, and you got to eat every 3 hours. Okay. The other key thing is you got to eat the right thing every 3 hours. You want to think of your metabolism as a fire. Once you get it going, you got to keep it going. The way you keep it going is you got to keep putting a log on it. You got to keep feeding it, but you got to put the right size log. Yeah. Too small a log, and it's just going to burn up, and then it's going to go out. Too big a log, it's going to take too long to catch, and then if it does, it's going to flame up, and then it's going to. So you got to put the right size log, and so you got to eat the right thing, and the right thing is protein. Okay.
Okay.
Your metabolism has to work a lot harder to digest protein than it does, say, carbohydrates. So. Real simple, 4 Minute Fit. The program is basically turn your metabolism on before you start your day by moving with maximum intensity for 4 minutes. Any movement you can do for 4 minutes.
I love it.
Once you've turned the metabolism on, that's step one. Step two is now all you have to do is keep it on by eating protein every 3 hours and limiting your carbs. Because when you eat carbs are your potential fuel, your potential energy, and energy is valuable, right?
Right.
You got to pay for energy. You got to pay for fuel. You got to pay for electricity. You got to pay for heating. So if you eat food that has carbs in it, and you're just sitting behind the wheel, or you're sitting at your desk, or you're just sedentary all day and body's not moving, it doesn't need a lot of energy, because you're giving it this valuable potential energy, it's not going to throw it away.
Right.
It's going to
Right.
It's going to store it as fat.
Yeah. It's like, this is good stuff. We got to keep this for later.
Keep it for later.
That's what the body does. It's like, we don't need this now, but it's awesome. Right. So we need to keep that. Where should we put it? Oh, we'll find someplace somewhere. Yeah. Right. Get it. I got it.
So you want to when you eat, you want to gradually reduce your carbs and limit them. And you just want to make sure you're getting enough protein every 3 hours to keep your metabolism working. It's that simple. In 4 Minute Fit, there's no food that you're required to eat, and there's no food that you absolutely have to avoid. There's complete food freedom. Once you understand the principles and that you're eating for your metabolism and what that means, and practicing, what's often called nutrient timing. Okay. John Berardi talks about this, and Tim Ferriss has talked about this. A lot of people, I'm not the only one who knows this. A lot of people know this. Right. But when applied to, for example, truck drivers whose metabolism isn't working, they can't rely on whether they feel hungry or not. They often don't get the signal that they're hungry and that they need to eat. And contrary to popular opinion, truck drivers are not in their truck just eating all day. The average truck driver is only eating once or twice because their metabolism is broken. So they're skipping meals. And the problem is their metabolism is on low. It doesn't have any work to do. So they're driving the whole day storing fat when they could be burning fat if all they did was turn it on and keep feeding that fire.
Right. So truck drivers can do their 4 minutes or their 8 minutes or their 15 minutes on the road. And then they can also I think so, like, you can have like a protein shake or a handful of almonds or something like that, and then get some decent protein meals somewhere along the road. And then carbs aren't gone, but they're severely reduced, basically.
I
throw away the fries.
I wouldn't even say severely.
Okay.
Because if I do that, a person that's really motivated might try to severely cut their carbs, and then they go through food withdrawal and they suffer.
Right. You want them to eat
carb cravings.
Right.
And so I don't want to shock your system that you're trying to lose weight, but now you're creating this psychological warfare because you cut too many too fast.
And then you get into deprivation mode kind of thing.
Yeah, you have this adverse reaction.
No, I get it.
The reason why it's a 13-week program, I'll show you here. Here's how you log your food, and here's how you determine what your average daily carbohydrate consumption is, whatever it is. Maybe you're at 350 grams, maybe you're at 270. Doesn't matter. Wherever you are, they would just start the process of walking you down enough each week, usually by making one simple change that we can strategically identify because you logged your food. At that point, you read the book, you're going to know how to say, wow, here's the item that I eat the most that's doing the most damage to my metabolism. And let's say that item is contributing 60 grams of carbs every day. And you make one little switch to that, and it goes from 60 grams to 30 grams, right? Multiplied over a week.
Yeah.
Huge deal. No pun intended.
It works, so you can go for it.
So one simple strategic change that's going to give you maximum results. And so you make a series of those over the course of several weeks. You don't have to overhaul your entire diet. I hate that word diet.
Yeah.
You don't have to get a whole new shopping list, whole new menu, whole new recipe, whole new cooking utensil. You don't have to do all that.
Right.
You make one strategic change each week. After about 5 or 6 changes, you're probably done. You're going to be getting the results. And it's what I call the least disruptive.
Yeah. And whatever it is that you're doing, you have to make it like easy and, very workable into the lifestyle, and that's what I liked about any of the diets that I tried, mostly sort of like a modified version of the slow carb diet, which is similar to what we're doing, the Tim Ferriss diet. And I've modified that. I'm not so much on the beans anymore. I try to avoid most of my carbs, but like I like Trader Joe's salads just because they're so damn simple. They're not available to everybody. Like a trucker probably couldn't make that happen, but I can. So it's super simple, and I'm doing my 30 grams or better with my breakfast. But the thing is whatever it is that I'm doing, I want it to be easier than bad food. It's like, I'm hungry. What's the easiest thing I can do? My diet. my thing. It's like the easiest thing I could do. I could go to Popeyes. Oh God, the last time I had Popeyes, it made me sick. What do I have here that I know won't make me feel sick? Oh, that salad that I bought. It's so simple to eat.
That's a different mentality. You've arrived there, and I get that.
It did.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I try to serve with my nutrition. I try to serve my house. It's like, man, I can eat as much as I want of anything because everything in my house is geared towards my purpose,
right?
And easy and convenient. Now, for a driver, I'll give you an example. So, real story: driver he did his food log for 7 days, did an analysis. That driver, he eats 6 or 7 foot-long sub sandwiches.
Holy cow! 6 or 7. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay. In a week.
Every single day.
Right.
And in his mind, he's like, this has got to be better than a burger and fries, right?
Right.
So it's economical, it's convenient, it's right there at the truck stop.
It's supposed to be healthy. Yeah.
Right. So he goes and he does this and he's thinking he's doing great. So I'll do an analysis and I'll be like, man, the thing that's causing the single most amount of damage is your foot-long sub. Mostly because of the bread. That bread is giving you 85 to 90 grams of carbs. So here's what you do, okay? Go to Subway, get the 6-inch with double meat. Same routine, same sandwich, same flavor, same everything. All I did was cut the bread in half and cut your carbs in half.
And
but it's
you got the same amount of protein. Right.
Yes, same everything. So a change like that, a driver can make and sustain. That's because genius. He's not really missing anything.
Right. And it's easy. Easy.
You didn't even have to go out of your routine.
Right. It's the same. It's just slightly different. That's genius. Yeah.
That's how. So those kind of changes are why the drivers will lose the weight and sustain it and keep it off. Because I figured out you find the things that will fit into their routine. If you take something away, you got to give something back. I mean, you mentioned the salads. So, hey, you go to McDonald's. Instead of get your chicken, your favorite chicken sandwich, get the Southwest grilled chicken salad with 2 pieces of chicken.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not saying you can't eat on the road. I know you're a driver. There's no way you're going to be a driver and not eat in these restaurants and these fast food places.
You just got to make
all
it work.
I have to do is teach you how to eat for your metabolism, and you know how to modify what's there, and you can still eat there and lose weight.
Wow. Yeah, and there was no way you were going to figure that out unless you had to do it yourself, which is amazing. So in the last 4 years, how long did it take you to figure out how to make it work for you?
Well, I started I started driving in the summer of 2008. 2009 is when I started experimenting on myself.
Right.
I had really hacked my own metabolism by the middle of 2010.
Okay.
So I'd been working on it for a year and a half. And I was applying what's in 4 Minute Fit. I was applying it to myself and it worked. I mean, I got in good shape. I got cut. I was looking good in the mirror. I'm pretty vain. So I was like, yeah, I look good. Right.
Good for you. Why not?
And I was like, man, I wonder how fast I could swim, just like on a whim. So I decided I was going to enter a swim meet at the age of 40.
All right.
And I did. I went to the meet, swam surprisingly fast. And someone told me, you should go to nationals. You'll do really well. I didn't even know they had a nationals for old guys. It's called Masters Swim. Like, who knew? Right?
Who knew? Right.
Who knew?
Right.
So I decided one of the great things about truck driving is I get to drive all over the country. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. I call my fleet manager. I'm like, hey, I need a load going out to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona on such and such a date. And I get a load going out there and park the truck in the parking lot. And I get out of the truck and I go to the meet and I swim my races. And I'm thinking, I'll go. I'll see a few of my old friends. Maybe I'll make the top 10 if I'm lucky and, have fun, good time. Well, I end up winning 2 races.
Wow.
For the first time in my life, now I'm a national champion.
All right.
Finally, right? They're like, who is this guy? He pulls up and literally I park the truck in the parking lot, go to the race. They can't pronounce my name. They don't remember me. And I get back in my truck and I drive off and go deliver my load.
In the movie of your life, that's got to be the opening and closing scene. Because that's the best. I love that.
So, totally unexpected. And I'm starting to get media attention. Magazines are writing about me and they're calling me the fittest truck driver in America. And now I had a platform to talk about the health issues affecting drivers because I'm the fittest truck driver in America.
Of course.
I can talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. And so that was good for business and by the time I had done that, I had also got into triathlons. I did 8 in 2011, the last year that I was a full-time driver.
Wow. 8 triathlons. My goodness.
Yeah, 8 triathlons that year. I won 2 or 3 of them. And I finished the year going to the 2012 Ironman South Africa. Because it's not enough for me to do an Ironman. I got to go all the way to Africa to do it. I want my people there, right?
That's the best. All right.
And I got 214th in my first Ironman out of like 1,500 athletes.
That's pretty good. Wow.
And so I ended my driving career on an athletic high. And I went to Robert Lowe, who is the founder of Prime, the company I was driving for. They have about 7,000 drivers. And I went to him and I said, listen, I've developed this system. I can coach your drivers. I can use digital health equipment to measure and monitor their metabolic output every minute of the day. Not only can I coach them to lose weight, I can make their metabolisms 8% more efficient. And he's like, really? 8%? And I was like, 8%'s a lot, right?
Yeah.
If you'd like to get 8% better fuel economy or get an 8% raise, or argue 8% less with your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, or wife, right? 8%
just say
a lot.
8. You're gonna feel 8% a little bit, more happy.
Yes.
I think, and I'll take that.
I showed him the system. I showed him how it worked. I didn't come to him with an idea. I had worked it out. I had already used it on myself.
Yeah.
It's fully fledged.
You had a PowerPoint presentation, probably.
No, I had the digital health devices. I strapped it on. I showed him in real time what I was doing. Yeah. That's
awesome.
I don't even think I had the PowerPoint, but I don't even think I used it. I was off and running, right?
Yeah.
And Robert, being a visionary leader in the trucking industry and really caring about his drivers, said, hey, this is what we need. And he created a position for me called driver health and fitness coach at Prime. And I did that for 4 years and helped a lot of drivers lose weight, and they got amazing results. And actually I started outperforming Weight Watchers. So technically I have the #1 weight loss program in the country.
Wow.
Right here. Yep.
I believe it. Because, it's using a lot of known, like you said, it's a lot of known strategies, just, simplified, and I think, a lot of them come out trying to be simple. And then as you scratch the surface, obviously they're a little bit more complicated as you go. But I think yours is probably the most simple / effective out of the box on the simple setting, right? I don't know.
Jeff,
You're laughing at me.
I'm laughing because when they approached me about doing the book,
yeah,
I was like, it's only going to be 10 pages. It's really simple. We spent a lot of time trying to put stuff in the book,
right? All the
I didn't want it
stories.
to be more than, yeah, I didn't want it to be. I wanted someone to be able to read it in 15 minutes and know exactly what to do.
Right. Yeah. That doesn't make a book. That's like a pamphlet.
Yeah. So we put more information in there, but there's a section of the book where if you just want to get the nuts and bolts, here's what to do and when to do it and how to do it. You can read that chapter, bam, you're gone, you're good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I liked it because it gave me, sort of bullet points for chatting with you, which is great. So I got way more out of the preface or the intro. I'm not sure which, the life story part, that was probably my favorite thing. And then I kept going because I was like, well, I want to know how I can get rid of my gut, so I better keep going.
Well, I have to give credit to John Wertheim for that. So John interesting story. The book was actually John's idea. John Wertheim he's an executive editor at Sports Illustrated. Just so happens he was a classmate of mine at Yale.
Oh, wow.
Same year. And so when we didn't know each other back then, but we had some mutual friends. But when I disappeared from campus, it was kind of a strange thing. People knew about it, and he had wondered what happened. And so when I kind of resurfaced, he was reading a Yale alumni magazine and saw this little blurb about me, and he contacted me, and he's like, man, what happened to you? And I told him a story, and he's like, man, we got to write about this.
It's an amazing
so the book
story.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of the anecdotes and stuff in the book was really John's influence, saying, hey, this book can be more than just a manual. There's some really good nuggets in here that the readers can appreciate, because as you're losing weight, you're transforming your life. As you're getting healthier, you're transforming your life. You have more energy to deploy into the universe.
Yeah,
and I've seen it happen. I've seen people change their life, and he's like, your story about how your life has changed is going to resonate with some people. So that's John. I'm not a writer. Okay.
Right.
I do what I do pretty good, but I'm not a writer. So he's a great writer, and he definitely did a great job in sort of helping me tell my stories.
No, it's great. It's a great book. So you are, let me see if I can say it right now without coaching, Siphiwe Baleka. Did I get it right? At SiphiweBaleka.com. Your book is called 4 Minute Fit. Did I get that right?
You got it.
I got it right. This has been a blast. We're like an hour and 20 minutes ish, which means we're just having way too much fun. So I appreciate your time, and thanks for being on the show.
Man, thank you, Jeff. This has been great. And if your listeners want to contact me, they can go to www.SiphiweBaleka.com. It's just my name. And you can see videos, some of the exercise stuff that I talk about in 4 Minute Fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see some of those videos if you go to www.truckerterritory.com.
Okay.
It's a website sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, and they were like, hey, we want to help. There's a lot of people that really want to help truck drivers. People are really getting involved, and they helped me develop some really great content that you can see for free. And we want you to get the book, but you can go there and you can kind of see, for yourself what I'm really talking about.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. You have a good one.
I will. And same to you, Jeff.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.